Most people think bad habits are addictive because they feel good immediately. You scroll because it is easy. You procrastinate because avoiding discomfort feels like relief. You reach for junk food because your brain has learned to expect a reward. But here is the strange part. Your brain can learn the same pattern from behaviors that actually improve your life. Exercise can become something you crave. Reading can become something you miss. Waking up early can eventually feel more natural than sleeping in. Working toward a goal can become psychologically rewarding in itself. The secret is not becoming a person with unlimited discipline. It is teaching your brain to associate the right behavior with the right reward. And once that happens, something changes. You stop constantly forcing yourself to do the habit. You start feeling uncomfortable when you don't do it. That is where good habits become powerful. Think about someone who has just started exercising. On day one, they don't wake up thinking, "I can't wait to work out." They think, "I really don't feel like doing this." Their brain is comparing two options. One offers immediate comfort, stay in bed. The other requires effort. Get up, change clothes, move your body, and tolerate discomfort. If you rely only on motivation, the comfortable option usually wins. This is because human behavior is heavily influenced by immediate consequences. The brain does not naturally care as much about the person you might become 6 months from now as it cares about what feels easier right now. That creates one of the biggest problems with building good habits. The reward is often delayed. You study today, but the benefit may appear months later. You exercise today, but the physical transformation takes time. You save money today, but financial security feels distant. So the psychological challenge is simple. How do you make your brain care about something before the final reward arrives? You create smaller rewards along the way, not necessarily huge rewards. Sometimes the most powerful reward is simply noticing progress. You finish a workout and recognize, "I kept my promise to myself." You read 10 pages and realize, "I actually did it." You clean your room and experience the difference immediately. That moment matters because the behavior is no longer connected only to some distant future benefit. It becomes connected to an immediate psychological reward: satisfaction, progress, competence, and self-respect. And this is where something deeper happens. You begin changing your self-perception. At first you say, "I'm trying to exercise." Eventually you say, "I'm someone who exercises." Those statements sound similar, but psychologically they are very different. One describes an activity. The other describes an identity. When a behavior becomes part of how you see yourself, repeating it requires less internal negotiation. Imagine two people refusing to skip a workout. One thinks, "I should exercise because exercise is good for me." The other thinks, "I don't skip workouts." The second person isn't necessarily more disciplined. Their behavior simply fits their self-image. Human beings naturally try to maintain some consistency between what they believe about themselves and what they repeatedly do. That means you don't always need to fight your old identity directly. You can slowly give yourself evidence for a new one. One workout becomes evidence. One healthy meal becomes evidence. 1 hour without social media becomes evidence. One day of keeping your promise becomes evidence. The brain starts collecting these experiences. And eventually the question changes from, "Can I do this?" to, "This is what I do." But there is another psychological trap that destroys good habits before they become automatic. People often make the habit too difficult. They decide they're going to exercise for an hour every day, read 50 pages every night, meditate for 30 minutes, wake up at 5, eliminate sugar, and completely transform their life in 1 week. It feels powerful, but psychologically it creates enormous friction. Every repetition requires a huge amount of effort, and when the effort becomes too high, your brain starts associating the habit with resistance. A better strategy is almost embarrassingly simple. Make the beginning easy. If you want to read, start with 5 pages. If you want to exercise, start with 10 minutes. If you want to write, open the document and write 1 paragraph. The goal in the beginning isn't maximum performance. It is repetition, because repetition teaches your brain something that motivation never can. This behavior belongs in my life. Think about brushing your teeth. You probably don't wake up every morning and negotiate with yourself for 20 minutes about whether you should do it. The behavior has become so familiar that skipping it can feel strange. That is the destination for your good habits. Not heroic effort, familiarity. But there is another important piece: environment. Your behavior is not produced by willpower alone. Your surroundings constantly influence what feels easy, available, and attractive. If your phone is beside your bed, scrolling requires almost no effort. If your running shoes are beside the door, exercising requires less effort to begin. If junk food is sitting on your desk, eating it requires almost no decision-making. This matters because habits often follow the path of least resistance. So instead of constantly asking yourself to become stronger, sometimes change the environment around you, make the good behavior visible. Make it convenient. Reduce the number of steps between you and the habit. And increase the number of steps between you and the behavior you are trying to This isn't weakness, it's intelligent behavioral design. But eventually, you need something even more powerful than convenience. You need emotional meaning. A habit becomes much easier to maintain when it represents something you care about. Maybe you're exercising because you want more energy to play with your children. Maybe you're saving money because you want freedom. Maybe you're studying because you are tired of feeling trapped in the same situation. Maybe you're reading because you want to understand the world instead of constantly reacting to it. The behavior becomes connected to something deeper than the behavior itself. And when a habit has meaning, missing it can feel like moving away from the person you want to become. That's very different from forcing yourself. You aren't simply chasing a reward anymore. You're protecting a direction. There is also an important warning here. You don't want to become addicted to productivity in a way that makes rest feel like failure. The goal isn't to turn every healthy behavior into an obsession. A genuinely healthy habit should give you more control over your life, not less. You should be able to rest without feeling worthless. You should be able to miss one workout without declaring the entire system ruined. You should be able to have an unhealthy meal without thinking you've destroyed your progress. Because perfectionism can quietly transform a good habit into another source of anxiety. What matters is returning. That's the psychological skill most people underestimate. Not never breaking the habit, returning to it. You miss Monday, you come back Tuesday, you have a bad week, you begin again, you lose motivation, you make the next repetition smaller. The person who succeeds isn't always the person who never falls out of rhythm. It is often the person who has learned how to restart without turning one mistake into an identity. Eventually, something remarkable can happen. The habit stops feeling like a task you are forcing yourself to complete. It becomes part of the rhythm of your life. You may actually begin craving the feeling that follows it. The calm after meditation, the energy after exercise, the satisfaction after finishing a difficult task, the clarity after putting your phone away, the confidence that comes from keeping a promise to yourself. And that is the real meaning behind becoming addicted to good habits. You're not trying to trick your brain into loving discipline. You're teaching your brain to recognize the rewards that were already hidden inside the behavior. Because every time you repeat something worthwhile, you're doing more than completing a task. You're casting a vote for the person you believe you can become. And after enough votes, your identity starts to change. One day you may realize something strange. You no longer need to convince yourself to do the thing. You simply feel like yourself when you do it. And perhaps that's the most powerful habit of all. Becoming the kind of person who doesn't constantly need motivation to live the life they already decided they wanted.